Imagine you need to withdraw some cash. You're not going to book a flight from Lagos to London just to use your bank, right? Of course not. You'd just walk into the nearest branch around the corner. That simple idea is the easiest way to understand AWS Regions. Today, I'm going to explain AWS Regions in a really simple way using that bank branch analogy. So even if you're completely new to cloud computing, AWS, or DevOps, this will make perfect sense. If you've ever wondered what an AWS region really is, why it matters, and how it affects speed, cost, and reliability, then this video is for you. Let's start from the very basics. In cloud computing, an AWS region is a physical location somewhere in the world where Amazon has built massive data centers. These are real buildings with thousands of real servers inside. Each AWS region is made up of multiple, separate data centers called availability zones. Now, instead of thinking about data centers and servers, let's go back to our bank branches. A bank doesn't have just one building for the entire world. It has branches in different cities and countries so that customers can access their services faster and more reliably. AWS regions work exactly the same way. For example, AWS has regions in places like US East, US West, Europe, Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. Each of these regions is designed to serve users that are geographically close to them. Let's make this super practical. If you're in Nigeria and your application is hosted in an AWS region in the United States, every single time a user opens your app, their request has to travel across continents just to get a response. That's like trying to withdraw money from a bank branch on another continent. Sure, it'll probably work, but it's going to be slow and frustrating. This is exactly why choosing the right AWS region is so important. The closer your AWS region is to your users, the faster and snappier your application will feel to them. So what's actually happening behind the scenes? When a user clicks a link or opens an app, that request travels to the AWS region where your application is running. The server there processes the request and sends a response back to the user's device. If the region is close, that round trip is very quick. If the region is far away, the response takes longer. This delay is what we call latency. Low latency means a fast response time. High latency means a slow response time. So when people complain that their website is slow, sometimes the problem isn't the code. Sometimes it's simply the AWS region they chose to host it in. Now let's talk about reliability, because this is another huge reason why AWS regions exist. Banks don't keep all of their customers' money in one single building. If that building has a problem like a fire or a power outage, everything would grind to a halt. AWS avoids this exact problem by using availability zones. Remember those? Each AWS region has multiple availability zones, and each one is a completely separate data center with its own power, its own network, and its own cooling systems. They're isolated from each other. So, if one availability zone fails, the others in that same region just keep on running. In our bank analogy, if one branch has an issue, other branches in the same city can still serve customers without any interruption. In the cloud world, we call this high availability and fault tolerance. This design is one of the biggest advantages of cloud computing compared to traditional on-premise servers where everything might be sitting in one single location. Okay, let's talk about cost, because this often surprises beginners. AWS pricing is not the same in every region. Some regions are more expensive to operate in than others. This is similar to how bank charges or even the cost of living can differ from one country to another. So, when choosing an AWS region, companies have to balance three major factors: performance, cost, and compliance. Performance is all about speed and user experience. Cost is about the budget, how much will it cost to run the services in that particular region. And compliance is about legal and regulatory requirements. This one is incredibly important. Some countries have laws that require their citizens' data to stay within their borders. This is called data residency or data sovereignty. For example, if you're building an application for users in Europe, you may be legally required to host that data inside an EU-based AWS region to comply with regulations like GDPR. That's why companies don't just randomly pick AWS regions. There's always a technical, business, or legal reason behind the choice. Now, let's clear up a very common beginner mistake. Many people think AWS is just one giant, single cloud. In reality, AWS is a global network of distinct regions and availability zones. They are all connected, but they are also independent. Your virtual servers, your storage buckets, and your databases all live inside a specific region you choose. They don't automatically exist everywhere unless you architect your system to do that. This is a key concept you need to grasp for AWS certification exams, for real-world cloud architecture, and for any DevOps role. If you understand regions early on, a lot of the more advanced AWS topics will suddenly make so much more sense. So let's quickly summarize everything. AWS regions are like bank branches spread across the world. You choose the region closest to your users for better speed and lower latency. You use multiple availability zones within that region for high reliability. And you always consider cost and legal compliance before making a final decision. Simple, practical, real. Now I want to hear from you. Which AWS region do you typically use, and why? Drop your answer in the comments below. If this video helped you understand AWS regions better, please give it a like. Subscribe for more cloud computing and AWS explained simply, and share it with someone who is just starting their cloud journey. See you in the next one.